hantavirus. So hantavirus, everybody's kind of minding their own business, and then we start seeing these clips again on ships. Hey, this person died, that person died. And then this same guy, Tedros, comes back up, and people are like, wait a minute, that guy's back up again? Yes. What is really the headline of this story? A luxury cruise ship carrying 147 passengers sailing towards Canary Island with a confirmed Andes hantavirus outbreak. On board, 3 dead, 8 cases, and the only known hantavirus strain that spreads person to person. The World Health Organization has deployed an expert on board, shipping 2,500 diagnostic kits to 5 countries, and says this is not the next COVID. They're already saying that up front to not scare the crap out of people. But with no approved vaccine, no approved treatment, with a 38% kill rate, the world is paying attention. And by the way, the states that they're looking at, that they're literally following the people that were tied to it, was Georgia, 2 residents monitored, Arizona, 1 resident flagged by Arizona Department of Health and Services, California, an undisclosed number of residents under CDC coordinator observation. But the CDC stated, again, this is important because we don't want to do fear porn here, and maybe others are going to be doing that. The risk to the American public at this time is extremely low. You know what's the scary part of that sentence?
That opening works because it has every ingredient. A ship, a scary fatality number, international agencies, and the words low risk doing a lot of emotional work. Here is the clean version. WHO's May 8th report said 8 cases and 3 deaths were linked to the ship, with confirmed cases identified as Andes virus. By May 12th, WHO said 11 cases had been reported, including 3 deaths, and all were among passengers or crew. That is serious. But a case fatality number from a tiny cluster is not a forecast for every viewer sitting at home. WHO also said there was no sign of a larger outbreak, and its global risk assessment remained low. The smartest posture is alert, not panicked.
8 cases have been reported, including 3 deaths. 5 of the 8 cases have been confirmed as hantavirus, and the other 3 are suspected. WHO is aware of reports of other people with symptoms who may have had contact with one of the passengers.
You can pause it right. This is just repeating what I said. So they confirmed 5 out of the 8 cases have been laboratory confirmed as Andes virus. 3 patients evacuated to Netherlands, 1 critically ill.
This is where the trust issue enters the chat. When WHO speaks, some viewers hear public health coordination, and others hear the opening credits to the last 4 years of arguments. But operationally, this is exactly what you do when passengers scatter across borders. You confirm cases, trace contacts, isolate sick people, and tell the public what is known without overselling certainty. The reaction can be skeptical, sure, but the evidence still has to carry the argument.
Story.
Here we go again, and I really hope that America don't go all up in arms, but we have every right not to trust anybody, especially Mr. Tedros over here, because there's another video, Pat, where he says, we really need this incident, this outbreak, to show why the world needs a global entity that connects this. Okay, he says that he hopes this incident will make Argentina and the U.S. reconsider.
He didn't say that.
Yes, he did. I'm literally quoting this. Reconsider their decisions to withdraw from the hood. Because mind you, we withdrew in 2025, Rob, January, if I believe. He said the best immunity we have is solidarity. Okay, and if that's not a threat, Argentina pulled out in March in 2026, and then less than 2 months later, weird that a boat leaving from Argentina gets infected with this virus. And I'm sorry, I'm not that silver, what do they call it? The foil hat, tin foil. No, this is just the truth. And I don't know if you know this or not. You know how it comes, how people get it from?
Tin hat men.
Tin hat.
Part of the tin hat group.
I'm not from the tin hat group.
Yep.
You know how allegedly this thing contracts and how people get the hantavirus? From rodent feces. Sniffing rodent feces or...
Vinny is reading a real audience mood. After COVID, a lot of people do not receive the word coordination neutrally anymore. That is a public trust problem, and it did not come from nowhere. But one weird timeline is not evidence of a plot. Put claims into buckets. Confirmed bucket. There was a cruise-linked cluster. Plausible bucket. Investigators should map contacts and exposures. Speculation bucket. The timing proves design. That last bucket needs documents, sequencing, whistleblowers, or a very strong trail. Suspicion is a starting point, not the finish line.
Andrew Strain?
Yeah, let me read that. Because I'm gonna come to you because this is what Tom pointed out yesterday in the article. Argentine investigators now believe that a Dutch couple who was responsible for bringing the virus on board after picking it up from rodents when visiting a landfill during a bird watching tour in the city of Ushuaia days before the ship departed from Argentine port on March 20th. Both husband and wife are now dead. So they're saying it came from picking up this rodent. Now, how did they know that story, Vinny?
You tell me, and he made a great point yesterday. What was the COVID one?
Which part of it?
The bat.
The bat.
The
Oh,
bat
yeah.
pangolin?
It said, hey, it's a wet market. They ate a bat that they picked up in the wet market in the middle of China. No. We've used that one already. We need something bigger. Hey, wait a minute. What about a Dutch couple like on a cruise ship? I like that because no one knows where Dutch is.
Yeah.
That's the type of people it is, not the country. Yeah, well, we'll call them Dutch. And maybe they were bird watching. Yeah, by a landfill.
Yeah,
bird
that
watching
works.
by a land. Yeah, that smells great. Hey, let's go by a landfill. The aromatic beauty of a landfill.
Yeah.
And we'll go bird watching. And oh, wait a minute. Is that rat waving his butt at me? I don't know. Let me sniff.
Vinny, continue.
You're right.
Comedy break, and honestly, the bird watching by a landfill detail sounds like a screenwriter got over-caffeinated. But weird is not the same as fake. Hantaviruses are commonly tied to rodents, especially exposure to urine, droppings, or saliva. So an environmental exposure story is not automatically suspicious. The fair question is whether investigators can connect the exposure history, symptom timing, and lab results. That is the standard. Laugh at the odd detail, then ask for the evidence.
Yeah.
Your
So
mic is
meanwhile,
up.
passengers have already left the ship. Guys, this is what drives me crazy. They've been dropping passengers off left and right. They're scattered all over the place in different countries, thinking that they're fine. And mind you, it takes 8 weeks, Pat, up to 8 weeks for this to actually...
This is the part that deserves attention. Not because everyone needs to hide under a desk, but because contact tracing gets messy once people fly home. CDC says Andes virus symptoms usually appear 4 to 42 days after exposure. WHO's broader hantavirus guidance says illness can appear 1 to 6 weeks after exposure, and rarely as late as 8 weeks. That kind of delay makes public health follow-up important. It also makes rumor management important, because people fill uncertainty with whatever story is loudest.
get vaccinated. And I
Tom,
said, no.
your thoughts on this?
So if you wanted to, start something, you would do it on a cruise ship.
Why not?
And I was reading some things last night, and again, not tinfoil hat. These are people that said, listen, if you really wanted to circulate something, the best place to circulate a disease literally is on a modern cruise ship in some place like a Caribbean cruise, Miami, or going a Pacific North cruise out of
Why is that?
San Francisco, because the number of people that fly into Miami that get on that cruise, they come from many other places. Now they go all around the islands. And they're concentrated with each other, eating dinner with each other, sitting out with each other. And so you're in contact with everybody every day. So now you've got the ability to spread on the cruise ship. And then guess what you do, Pat, at the end of 10 days? You go back to Miami and they all get on planes going back
all over the world.
Tom's cruise ship point is real epidemiology. Ships compress people, routines, air, dining rooms, cabins, excursions, and travel networks. That is why cruise outbreaks get attention. But here is the key distinction. A good setting for spread is not evidence that something was deliberately seeded. Those are separate mental folders. One folder is risk analysis. The other folder is intent. Blending them together makes a segment feel dramatic, but it can also make the audience less accurate.
Challenge with this virus, the long incubation period, and now we have people scattered really around the globe that are being properly tracked, isolated, quarantined, and get it under control. But what they did was they quarantined and isolated people for 40 days because of the long incubation period. So unfortunately, this is a key factor in us trying to figure out how do we keep people safe? How do we prevent further spread? I mean, what we're all tracking right now is that potential secondary spread.
This is a definitions moment. Isolation is for sick people. Quarantine is for exposed people who may become sick. A lockdown is a broad stay-home order applied to a population. Those words are not interchangeable. A 40-day quarantine for contacts is a very different claim than the country is locking down for 40 days. That distinction matters because panic monetizes fast. Clear language is boring, but it keeps viewers from getting whipped around by the scariest possible version of the sentence.
That's when we like, all right, we got some issues right here. But I basically was like, all right, what should the average person do? And you know what the average person should do? It says avoid rat infestations. That's basically the number one thing. So I canceled my trip to New York City. That's done. So we're not doing that there. So the number one most important thing to do is not freak out. Understand what's going on. Don't pull a Will Ferrell from Old School and everyone's got to keep our composure.
Yeah.
Calm down. Most likely this is not a big deal, but be mindful because we know what happened during COVID.
That is the right landing spot. Final scorecard. Real outbreak, real contact tracing concern, real public trust problem, and a lot of political heat sitting on top of the facts. Practical advice is simple. Avoid rodent infestations. Do not sweep or vacuum dry droppings. Ventilate, wet disinfect, and use gloves if you have to clean contaminated spaces. If you were exposed and develop fever, muscle aches, shortness of breath, or rapidly worsening symptoms, get medical care. The reaction video version is this: be curious, be funny, but keep the receipts close. Panic is cheap. Discernment is the content.